Okay, roadmap roundup 2/26/25, 8 p.m. Hello, everyone. As we emphasized in the last letter from the chairman and throughout our messaging this year, our top priority is improving stability. Top priority for 2025 is improving stability. A key part of this effort is refining how we manage feature development, with features now being developed in a separate branch and only migrating over when they are ready. In a recent episode of Inside Star Citizen, we shared our commitment to delivering more content patches more frequently. Because these updates are highly narrative driven, we've adjusted how they appear on the RSI release view to avoid spoilers. As a result, some newly added cards to the release view are marked as redacted and will only be fully revealed once the content is officially announced or discovered. Interesting. What is that? I guess what discovered in game is they have like content that they're going to just hold back until it's or they won't title it until someone has found it. So I guess we'll have some exploration gameplay a bit there. As a reminder, the 1.0 column represents features and content planned for Star Citizen 1.0. However, this doesn't mean you'll have to wait until full release to experience them. Rather, it serves as a snapshot of the experience you can expect. As features and content from this column become ready, they will shift left into the point patch column preparing for release. There are still more additions and updates to come, including possible changes and additions to immediate columns, so be sure to check back every 2 weeks for the latest updates. With that, let's dive into the week's roadmap roundup. CIG community team. Notable changes. February 26/25 release view. Deliverables released with 4.0 and 4.0.1 were marked as released. Meanwhile, a new event, Supply or Die, has been added to 4.0.2 and marked as committed. In a new 4.1 column has been added to the roadmap to the release view, highlighting some of the major deliverables that will release in the 4.1 patch cycle, either in 4.1.0 or in subsequent point patches 4.1.x. Okay. So, redacted mission giver. A new mission giver enters the verse, bringing fresh opportunities for players to explore. So that's interesting. That potentially, I mean, that could be exciting, right? It depends on what I want to know more about the mission giver, and specifically how much more, what have they done to improve mission givers since the initial ones that they released, I believe, in the 3.x patch cycle. A lot of those actually are still in game. There were a few that were removed, but there are some like Tessa Pacheco, Wallace Clem, Clovis Darnelli, I'm forgetting a few, but there are several in game now, but they have pretty much not been updated since their initial release. So it's very curious to see who the new mission giver is, how much, if at all, have these mission givers been improved with the now that Squadron is closer to release and they're gearing up to launch that next year. Like, has any of that narrative and mission content from Squadron 42 trickled over into their development of this new mission giver? That's kind of where my brain is with that. Redacted mission giver location. So a specifically designed location to host our latest mission giver, offering a new hub for players to engage in these opportunities. Again, so all of the mission givers pretty much have trying to think. I think they all have a unique location where they are in game. Now, I believe that at some point these mission givers will need to be behind like an instance. So you know, who basically the only people who will, when you go to interact or talk to a mission giver, like whoever's in your party, when you enter that instance, will be the only ones as far as players that you will see inside that instance. I think that's really the only way that they can properly scale mission giver content within the context of an MMO. Because when you have tens of thousands of players going to a single location to talk to a single mission giver, like you got to be able to to I guess gate it in a way, so that they aren't overwhelmed, or like there isn't this huge line or queue of people trying to talk to this person. And there's a number of locations that are going to need instances, but the new location, I'd imagine this has something to do with the sandworm, the Valakar. I'd imagine that whoever this mission giver is probably going to be in Pyro, and it's probably going to be related to the Valakar, because we do know that that is something that they're working on implementing in the verse at some point, which brings us to the next point, which is the redacted sandbox activity. An open-ended activity blending on-foot exploration with aerial support, creating sandbox gameplay opportunities for daring teams. Again, the Valakar presentation from CitizenCon in October showcased a blend of on-foot and aerial combat. So I'd imagine that this mission giver and the sandbox activity is probably maybe this is something that has levels. So maybe the first phase is exploration. You got to go find out where the Valakar is. They said something about the Valakar needing to be provoked into attacking, and like something that stimulates it is like ground activity, like kind of like Dune or Tremors, like you driving across the surface or walking in its territory will trigger it to come out of the ground. So that's where that mixed gameplay of aerial and on foot exploration comes in. That's at least that's my speculation. But then there's also another thing that they mentioned in here. We'll get to it in a second. Redacted armor set, a rugged and stylish new armor set tailored for brave adventurers facing new dangers, probably once again related to the Valakar. A new armor set for, maybe this armor set is tailored to monster hunting, or just hunting in general, like, right? Space combat missions. A new set of ship combat missions featuring improved scenario design and refined storytelling, scheduled to come in a 4.1.x patch. So this is a ways out. Then we have the Volt AR Parallax, powerful weapon. This is like their assault rifle. It's a powerful new weapon, boasting a unique blend of characteristics, firepower, and tactical potential. Basically, it's a laser beam weapon, but initially when you fire it, it acts like a normal, like energy-based assault rifle, but the longer you hold down the trigger, like the faster the projectile gets until they become like basically this solid beam of energy. It's a unique weapon. We don't have anything like that in the game currently. So a lot of people are looking forward to this. They've been teased for several years now, so cool to see that the AR and the SMG are both on their way. Speaking of the Volt SMG Quartz, a compact yet devastating firearm designed for those who need maximum firepower in a minimal frame. It's also out for a .x. So interesting that they call out 4.1.x for the SMG and not the AR. So maybe we're getting the AR first. Perhaps the AR has some stat bonuses for the Valakar fight, which is maybe why it's coming out first. Maybe this is something that is ideal to fight one of those. Who knows? Maybe it's a mission reward for the Valakar. That would be kind of cool to have the Volt AR be a reward for completing that mission set. Could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just speculating. So don't run and say that that's what's going to happen, because I'm not. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just speculating. Hathor Mining Station, a large-scale mining laser facility operated by the Hathor Group. So, from what I understand, the Hathor Mining Station was first introduced in Theaters of War, which never was released. It was tested years back before I started playing the game. So I never experienced it, but heard a lot about it, seen some of the footage and trailers from the play sessions and the promotion leading up to what was supposed to be released, but never materialized, never happened. Priority shifted. So yeah, so the mining station and then this ground alignment station is also one of the assets from that particular mission set. So strategically placed Hathor operated outposts providing key infrastructure and sandbox gameplay opportunities for planetary operations. Now, this is my other point for the redacted mission giver location and the sandbox activity. Now, because we know the Valakar mission is coming, like they literally showcased it at CitizenCon last year. I don't know why they would redact this, because they've already revealed it, right? So maybe the sandbox activity is related to the Hathor mining station and Hathor ground alignment stations. These locations could be related to the sandbox activity. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it is, but I think the obvious choice is the Valakar, but I think it's safe to consider the alternative being something else entirely that we haven't seen yet, which is the reason why they would redact this. So just to kind of keep an open mind about what that could possibly be. All right, now we go into the far future. Additions to the Star Citizen 1.0 column control surfaces. Now, to be fair, they're treating 1.0 in I think what their plan is for 1.0 is to merge all of these features into the 4.x branch. And then once all of these features are in the live environment in 4.x, it will then become a 1.0 beta. So we'll go from, once all these features have been implemented that they want for 1.0, once they are in the live release in a future 4.x branch, whatever that could be, like 4.40, like we don't know how many patches will be between now and 1.0's eventual release. But what I suspect is that once the entire content and feature set has been released to live, that patch will then become the 1.0 beta patch, and then we will just go into prolonged testing period of 1.0 beta till they are finalized and ready to ship it as a full 1.0 release. But we're probably 3 to 5 years minimum away from that happening. So yeah. So let's get in to see what they've actually added to the column. Control surfaces, improving atmospheric flight dynamics with functional control surfaces, allowing for more precise maneuvering and realistic aerodynamics. Quantum boost, introducing quantum boost, a short burst travel mode designed for quick repositioning and high speed engagements between distant points. So this is the new quantum travel system. And a aside, Yogi, who is pretty much, he's in charge of the new flight system, or the Star Citizen's flight design, the control surfaces, quantum boost, the new atmospheric flight model, like all of those systems are basically being merged into one and will be delivered together according to him, or at least that is the plan as of this week or last week, whenever he gave that update. Subject change, no ETA. They did begin testing, or actually they resumed development back in January. He said that progress is going well, but obviously no release date yet. But all those systems being tied together. So yeah, there's that update with a little bit more context. Item misfire and wear, adding depth to equipment functionality with item misfires and gradual wear, requiring regular maintenance to ensure peak performance. I'm going to suspect, my speculation is that the item misfire and wear is tied to crafting, because I believe repair is also tied to crafting, because what is the opposite of crafting is destruction, and then the opposite of destruction is repairing. So like it's the same system. Like, so I believe if we've seen item misfire and wear showcased before, but I believe now the issue is tying that system into the crafting system, so it's all one cohesive experience as opposed to independent systems, which is good. And it just makes sense. So I believe that item misfire and charge and drain, all that, and crafting are all rolled into one system. Yeah, that has not officially been said by CIG as far as I'm aware. I'm just speculating. Fire hazard. This is related to engineering. Bringing fire hazards to ships and environments along with fire extinguisher mechanics requires players to manage and extinguish blazes before they spread. Also to probably related as well to crafting and engineering. I think a lot of these systems are tied together and need to function together. And part of their restructure that happened earlier last year, going into this year as well, most of the teams, I'll get into that a little bit later. Yeah, let's knock this out. Charge and drain, expanding the utility for multi-tool with the ability to drain and transfer power between objects, unlocking new puzzle solving and support roles. So again, also tied to engineering and resource network, which is also tied to crafting. So this is really one cohesive experience: fire, charge, drain, item misfire, wear, life support, engineering, life support, integrating life support systems into ships, making oxygen management and environmental controls critical for survival. Engineering gameplay, introducing dedicated engineering roles aboard ships, allowing players to actively manage power distribution, repairs, and system efficiency in real time. Solar flare, unleashing powerful solar bursts within the pyro system, creating dynamic environmental hazards that players must navigate and prepare for. We had this actually in the pyro preview last year, and it was removed, and I believe it's removed once again because it's tied closely to engineering gameplay, because you take a massive amount of distortion damage if your ship is hit by this. If you are in the solar flare, if you're hit, like, you get irradiated immediately, and it's not good. So I think all of that though is tied into engineering, because how are you going to remove or offset the distortion damage through engineering? You're going to have to do some stuff. So I believe that's why that was removed. And then I think we also have another caveat, which is most, I won't say most, but a large number of ships don't have internal components that players can access, or um they have components, but the ships still need a component pass and update to the current uh, metrics and standards for engineering. So I think there's a quite a substantial amount of work required for engineering still, which is why it has no release date just yet. Like, but I think that's a good thing. I think that it would be better for them to take their time with a system like engineering, because it is literally tied to like 90% of the game. Like, ships engineering is not just like, the ship gameplay. It's also tied to resource network. Like, this is how you're going to power your bases. It's also a part of crafting and how those resources are managed as well. Like, it's a big feature. It's a massive feature that touches every aspect of the game pretty much. So definitely worth them taking their time. I'm not expecting this honestly until probably later this year, probably Q3, Q4, I would say at the earliest, just because of how big it is and how much work needs to go and how many people it needs to go through and how many different teams need to be involved and all that. Like, so to me, this is still a ways out. Vehicle radar and scanning rework, as well as FPS radar and scanning. These are things that were showcased at, I believe, CitizenCon 2 years ago. This is work from Squadron 42 that will be coming over from the PU, reworking vehicle radar and scanning for all vehicles. FPS radar and scanning, implementing first-person radar and scanning gameplay, improving situational awareness, and bringing new tactical gameplay. So what I believe, the system that they showed, the radar and scanning on ships and the FPS scanning were linked. They were tied together. So like the same information is shared across both systems. So like, for instance, if you are on foot and you do a FPS scan, that information can be then relayed to a ship that's above you or within the vicinity. So like, and it's something that we really, really, really need for situational awareness. In most instances in the PU, like FPS radar and vehicle radar and scanning would help to just improve your overall situational awareness. The being able to scan a target, properly identify, any faction affiliations they may have, what their current status is with a organization that you may be involved with. Lots of highly detailed information that you can acquire through scanning and radar. So big system that we absolutely need sooner rather than later. I hope that this is I think we could potentially get this before engineering, but I also think it's also still tied to engineering because of radars and scanners on ships. And then you also have, I would assume, if it's tied to your Moby, I think there's some equipment that is needed on the FPS side for FPS radar and scanning to work with resource network and all of the, like, again, we're getting to the point where the game is now, well, CIG is trying to make sure that there's cohesion between all these different gameplay systems. And things aren't isolated anymore. Hangar upgrades. Spelling error. Forgot the G. Hangar upgrades, expanding personal hangar customization with new upgrades, layouts, and functional improvements. Again, no date on this one, but definitely a much needed upgrade. Just, the more you can personalize a something that you own in the game, the better. Just for gameplay, quality of life stuff. You want your base, your home, your ship to feel like home. So uh, all of these are welcome updates, but not really, to me, low priority, honestly, for hangar upgrades. Like, cool. It'll be a nice money sink when we get it. It'll be a nice thing to help balance the game's economy. Weapon overheating. This is also tied to engineering. Introducing heat buildup, resource network and engineering. Introducing heat buildup and overheat mechanics for energy weapons, requiring careful trigger discipline and heat management during sustained firefights. I believe this is not only for ship weapons, but FPS weapons as well. So, and I believe this is also tied to wear and tear, because that heat buildup actually will degrade the weapon over time. So you will, it will lead to wear and misfires if it's not managed properly. So again, two systems that are closely tied together, as well as linked to another system, which is engineering. Radiation, another one, also once again tied to engineering. Implementing dangerous radiation zones in specific locations, forcing players to adapt to with specialized gear and strategic navigation. Now, I'm a bit curious how, if this will tie into Planet Tech at all, because I don't know. Well, it probably uses the very similar system to the fire hazard, and as far as like how it's managed in game, because you can have radioactive material, or in like radioactive area, or a ship or object or any type of entity in the game. And how you manage that, again, seems like it's something that would logically be tied to engineering and or crafting as a ways to mitigate any of the effects of radiation, as well as potentially spreading it if you want it. Same with fire, like, but all of those systems require engineering, I do believe. New mission, location repair. This one has been a thorn in their side the entire 4.0 patch. In 4.0, 4.01, and 4.02, the location repair missions, both, all three times were in the PTU, and before any of those builds were sent to live, this mission was removed because it was not working. I think once again, this is probably something that's just tied to engineering, and we may not see it until we get engineering gameplay. So like a lot of this like is tied to engineering gameplay. So this is, to me, the engineering gameplay is the big feature of the year, followed by, I think, crafting and base building, which I don't think we will get. I don't think we'll get base building this year. If we do get it, it'll be in a very limited fashion. But I do think crafting is something that is possible. I believe that's something that we will get before the year is over. And then progress tracker. So again, to me, the progress tracker is not, it's not a very useful tool. But what is important, I think, um, for the progress tracker is this restructure. So before, see how they have like Z archive, actor feature team, actor tech team, AI content team, AI tech and feature team, arena commander feature team, audio, so on and so forth. All of these teams were separate and they worked on every single feature independently. And it was basically like a pipeline. Basically, one team would get it, whoever needed to own it first, and then it would just go down the pipeline from one team to another until it was finally complete. Now, what they're doing is all of these teams are now one single team, and it's the core gameplay pillar team. So a lot more synergy, a lot more hands-on with features. I think more people, I think teams now have more purview of what's going on and how a feature is progressing through the pipeline. Because I remember a couple years ago watching ISEs and hearing Jared talk about like how a lot of the developers on CIG for working on Star Citizen watched Inside Star Citizen and Star Citizen Live to get updates on what was going on across the entire company, because a lot of them were in silos, like they were working on specific features and didn't know what everyone else was working on. So now that shifted to everyone is basically one single team, and you know, things are a little bit more fluid, less siloed. So I'm curious to see. I believe this change happened last year, so we should begin to see the fruits of that this year, because CIG is a pretty big company now. Like they have over 1,000 employees. A change that big, not going to happen overnight, and you're not going to see the results of that until at least 8 to 12 months after it's implemented. So this would be the time where we can see, which is why this year is going to be interesting, because this is the year where we should see directly the results of this restructure, and how features and content will be delivered and in what state they will come into the game when they go into testing. So that's something I'm keeping my eye on for the year. Yeah, because that's a significant change. So we should see a significant difference in how things are being managed, how things are being actioned and then delivered for testing and then moved into the live environment. It should be noticeably different this year than to prior years. And you know, we just need to pay attention to it, because if it's not, then clearly there's an issue like somewhere. um So that's just something to keep an eye on. So now we'll look at the release view really quickly. 4.1. So yeah, we've got the redacted armor set and mission giver under characters. Gameplay, the ship combat mission. What I'm hoping, I didn't even touch on this, but the space combat missions, new set of ship combat missions featuring improved scenario design and refined storytelling. I'm hoping that these are more narrative. It basically just the same combat missions, but inject some narrative into it. Like give us, you know, some audio, some dialogue, like a mission giver. Like give us like I'm not necessarily needing to go and talk to someone to get one of these missions, but when you accept a mission, it would be nice to get, you know, some dialogue from either the NPCs that are in the area once you get there, or whoever is assigning the mission. Like if they would give you a brief overview of the mission when you accept it, you know, just to immerse you into that experience just a little bit. That would be a nice quality of life improvement. mission giver location. So yeah, and then the Hathor stuff. So yeah, and all of these, again, they are subject to change. Things will be added, things will be removed, and everything will be basically coming back and forth between the Star Citizen 1.0 and 4.1 pipeline. Well, technically 4.x, because we'll get 4.1 and then 4.1x, which are basically just stability and bug fixes. While they're working on 4.2 will come out, have another feature set and things like that. What we don't know is there's no major feature, maybe. Well, the sandbox, but that's more content, but feature work, there isn't anything in 4.1. We get two new locations, a mission giver location, and then the sandbox activity. So no feature work yet announced, but that may be the case. It may change. We may get something, who knows? Like I said, or like they said, the next update is in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks time, we'll get another update as to what has changed. If anything from the 1.0 column slides over into 4.1, if anything comes out, like, or if anything goes unchanged, that's when we'll know in 2 weeks from now. 4.0.2 has another build pending for release to testing today at some time. So who knows? It's kind of feeling like maybe this could stay in testing for another week at this point. We shall see. But speaking of, next up is ISC, which goes over one of the features in 4.0.2, or the supplier die mission. Haven't watched that yet, so we're going to react to that right now. But I'm going to stop the recording for the recap of the roadmap, because that's pretty much it. That's all I want to talk about. So if you're watching this on YouTube, appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you like the content. If you want to check this out live, I'm streaming every Tuesday through Saturday, 12 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you tune in there if you can. If not, stuff like this will go up on YouTube, so you can always catch it. So make sure you subscribe, hit that like button. And yeah, like I always say, peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.